Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelsey. Thanks for joining us tonight on our Which Waterloo Engineering Program is Right for You webinar. My name is Kelsey. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the undergrad recruitment coordinator for the Faculty of Engineering. So I'm just going to go over some housekeeping items before we dive right into all of our programs. So first, we just have a territorial acknowledgement. So the University of Waterloo acknowledges that much of our work takes place on the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldimand Tract, which is the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated within the Office of Indigenous Relations. You can visit nativeland.ca to learn more about the land that you occupy. So throughout the webinar, we encourage you to submit your questions through our Q&A function on your screen. We have a lot of great people on the call today. We have professors, staff, faculty, and students who are eager and ready to answer any questions that you guys might have. So you can submit your question here with that Q&A option at the top of the screen, and our students, staff, and everyone will respond, typing those responses out in the Q&A. And then at the end of the presentation, as long as we have time, we'll kind of do a live Q&A. So you can continue asking those questions and we'll answer your question kind of live on video. If you do have any questions that we don't get to, please email engrecruitment@uwaterloo.ca with any specific questions you have that don't get covered. So our programs is the whole reason everyone's here tonight is to learn more about our programs here at the Faculty of Engineering. So we have 15 undergraduate programs in the Faculty of Engineering, and we're going to go through each one of these programs one by one. And again, if you have any questions about these programs as we're talking about them, please put them in the Q&A, and our experts will be happy to answer them. So first, we have Carly from the School of Architecture.
Hi, everyone. I'm Carly. My pronouns are she, her, and I am coming to you live from Cambridge, where the satellite campus is located for the School of Architecture. We are not technically an engineering program because when you complete the program here, you would receive a Bachelor of Architectural Studies versus an Bachelor of Applied Science, which is what you will get for an engineering program. However, we do belong to the Faculty of Engineering, and some people may find some similarities between our program and other engineering programs, and you may find yourself becoming more curious about architecture. The School of Architecture is situated in Cambridge, as I mentioned, in a very prominent historic building, which operated as a silk mill for many years, right on the edge of the Grand River. And in the area of Galt, if you're familiar with Cambridge, you'll know that there's a lot of historical architectural significance where we're located, which is perfect for our students to inspire their own design and creative juices. And here at the School of Architecture, students learn about designing buildings and spaces with a focus on design, environment, and the art of construction. Architecture is very much a creative discipline. And so if you are somebody who likes art and creative design and you tend to think outside the box, you may be drawn to an architecture program. We also are set apart from other schools of architecture in Ontario because we have a very strong focus on cultural history, which you won't necessarily find anywhere else, where students learn about human imagination, forms of expression, the history of ideas, which is very important when you're designing the future of our cities and towns and buildings. Another feature that sets us apart is our campus that we have in Rome. So we do have a campus in Rome where you'll spend a term studying in your 4th year along with the rest of your classmates and some of our faculty. And that is an amazing opportunity for our students to kind of have the highlight of cultural history culminate in that term abroad. And our admission process does differ quite a bit from that of the other engineering programs. So you'll hear about that admission process later, but for architecture, you are required to come for an interview with a portfolio of creative work. So that would be any form of creative expression. So whether it's craft or fine art or performance piece, anything that really shows us what you're passionate about and how you form your ideas through creative expression. I could go on and on about it, but we have a lot to cover tonight. So I will just end by saying thank you for being here. If you find yourself wanting to know more about architecture, I will drop my contact information, or you can see my email at the bottom there. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Carly. So next, we are going to hear from Bruce.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, nice to be here and see the list of people anyways that are here. So I'm going to talk about 4 programs today, all in the same department. So I'm a member of the what we call the Civil Environmental Engineering Department. I teach both civils, environmentals, and geological engineers courses related to water, hydrology, river restoration. My expertise is kind of urban flooding and river restoration. So we kind of see ourselves centered around this idea of sustainable cities and communities. A lot of what you see around you would have been built by some sort of civil engineer, architectural engineer, environmental engineer, or geological engineer. So the civil is what most people think of, and there's a few things there: structural engineering, transportation, construction management. Geological kind of overlaps because we're thinking about foundations and dams, which are kind of big civil projects, but also this geos are with applied geology, mining, petroleum, rock mechanics, and hydrogeology. They overlap with environmental in different areas, one of which is hydrogeology, but environmental engineers also think about bioremediation, waste and wastewater, as I said, river restoration, hydrologic planning for cities and communities, and also air quality and energy efficiency. And then architectural engineers, not architects, architectural engineers are thinking a lot about buildings, technological aspects of architecture, and project management and air quality and energy efficiency as well. So I have one slide for each of these programs to give a little bit more detail. So civil engineering, today's cities, of course, are built with the advice of civil engineers. So students in this program learn to design and build structures, systems, courses in steel and concrete, that kind of thing. Highways and airports, skyscrapers, all that kind of stuff. So you take a lot of course related to mechanics, shear, stress, public safety and responsibility, as well as things like water resources and some broadening courses related to environmental engineering. And so within that, there are some specializations you can get. So they're listed at the bottom there. Okay, next. So architectural engineering is a relatively new program. We had our first cohort come through. This is a program that was designed with the School of Architecture. So students do spend their 3rd year at the School of Architecture in Cambridge. So the unique feature about this program is really the design studios, which is a concept that is a big part of the architecture program, but not common in engineering programs. So architectural engineers are really focused on buildings, new buildings, retrofitting buildings with a focus on utility, sustainability, and energy efficiency. And so they learn a lot about building materials and technologies, all kinds of stuff. All right, and there's a couple specializations in there related to building structures and systems. So systems would be like HVAC systems and that kind of thing. So geological engineering, this is one of our smaller programs that people don't always know about, but this is a joint program with Earth Sciences. So the geological engineers spend a lot of time thinking about, geology and rocks and that kind of thing. So they understand and manage the complexity of the Earth in engineering, and so they help to design safe and durable structures with their knowledge of what's happening under our feet, essentially. So students in this program are often outdoors, often up in the north, often working in mines So they can qualify as PEng, so professional engineers, or PGEOs, which are professional geoscientists. So two possibilities, and you can get both. So typically these students are very well paid, and they're highly employable, in part because this is a smaller program. Next. And then this is my main interest. This is where I spend a lot of time. So environmental engineers work at the interface between human systems and the broader natural world. So interfaces are all over. It could be when we release our waste, we have to think about how we deal with that before releasing it to the natural world, both in the water, solid waste, in the air. Also, if we're thinking about drinking water, there's an interface there between the natural world where we get the water and then we drink it. Also, things like floods and other concerns are areas where we might interface with the natural world. So we have a dual responsibility to design systems that protect both humans, but also the natural world on which we depend. So this leads to careers in river restoration, pollution control, air quality assessment, or sustainability analysis, many other possibilities. And more graduates are discovering careers in climate-related fields using their integrated understanding of the world as a chemical, biological, and physical system. And so we're thinking about a future, right, that's going to be unlike the past. So environmental engineers are really thinking hard about that. So we have new specializations that we're happy to be releasing for the next year. So this is energy and climate change, water resources, pollution and restoration, modeling and data analytics, and sustainable cities. Okay, and any questions? I'm happy to take any questions, of course.
Thanks, Bruce. So then we have our Department of Chemical and Nanotech. So we're going to hear from Josh first.
Good evening, everyone. So yes, chemical engineering. We are a very interdisciplinary field of engineering where we take a lot of principles across science, mathematics, economics, also biology a lot of times, and we put that all together to try to tackle a lot of large societal issues, primarily having to do with converting raw materials into more useful ones, or sometimes taking waste materials and also converting that into something more useful, more sustainable. So sustainability is at the center of what we look at, trying to come up with new ways of producing energy or materials or transforming those materials to make a new economy that is more sustainable and have products that are generally better. And we use ChemE across a wide range of industries. So having to do with, here we've mentioned health, agriculture, and different types of energy areas, to name a few. But really, the industries we cover a pretty large span. So it's a pretty cool department, and there's a lot you can do with it. So if you want to learn more, please feel free to reach out and ask. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Anna.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to talk about nanotechnology engineering, which is an interdisciplinary program. It's a program between chemical engineering, electrical and computer engineering, and chemistry. I'm myself a professor of chemistry and an associate director of the program. So what we're talking about here is a technology that enables various biomedical applications ranging from things like COVID vaccine, where mRNA is delivered through certain nanocarriers that were designed using nanotechnology principles, and also various sensors that could be used both in vivo and in vitro studies. So there is all that bio aspect of it, and then there is another aspect which is related to integrated circuits. So this is a unique program in Canada where you can actually be exposed to a clean room environment early in your training. So you can learn how to make integrated circuits, various microchips that go into your cell phones, computers, and so on, and some more advanced technologies that they now enable quantum computing and so more advanced things like AI. In addition to that, we're also learning about various nanomaterials that are used for climate change mitigation. So it's related to things like carbon capture and utilization. So for example, we work with various electric catalysts that are used to produce hydrogen, that are used to reduce carbon dioxide, to various value-added products. So those are also nanotechnology-enabled materials and technologies. There are also various other technologies related to both electronics and sensors and things like this that could be used in space and in security. So there are various applications, and overall they all enhance our quality of life through various means. And so that's the program where you learn to model, design, fabricate, program, and characterize nano devices. We also work a lot with nanomaterials that enable the construction of such devices. So it is interdisciplinary in that you learn aspects of chemistry, electronics, biology, and quantum physics, because nanotechnology is basically utilizing those quantum phenomena for various end users and various devices for target applications. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask here or reach out to me after. Thank you.
Thanks, Anna. Then we're going to go to our Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. So we're going to start with Komal, and then we'll have Paul for software.
Hey everyone, my name is Komal and my pronouns are she, her. I just wrapped up my 4th co-op and I'm currently in my 3B term of computer engineering. I'm going to speak a little bit about the Electrical and Computer Engineering department, which houses the 2 programs, Electrical and Computer Engineering. Who would have thought? So ECE shares the same courses for the first bit of our degree, so you get a chance to get a taste of both programs, which is awesome. So starting off with computer engineering, in this program, you get the chance to explore more technical electives than any other computer engineering program in Canada, which means you can dive into whatever sparks your interest, whether it be circuit boards or software security. This term, I have a chance to take computer networks, databases, and compilers, which are all technical electives. So you get a bunch more options as you progress through your degree, and you can customize it in a way that you like. No bias. The cool part is that you don't just learn how to design hardware and software systems, you kind of understand how they interact with each other and how they affect people and how they perform in the real world. And especially when you're on co-op, you can find yourself working on things like improving search engines, designing hardware, building AI software, programming mobile devices, or even diving into system security. It's really about getting hands-on with the things that you find interesting. In computer engineering, in electrical engineering, it's all about the technology that runs on electrical energy. So things like wind turbines, GPS systems, hybrid cars, and communication networks. What's really exciting is that we've got one of the largest power energy research groups in North America. So if you're interested in renewable energy, this is the place to be, to become an expert in things like solar panels, wind turbines, and smart grids. And you get a chance to explore things like communication systems, control systems, computer systems, lots of systems, and it gives you the skills to work on some of the most advanced technology out there. That's all I have to say about the ECE department. If anyone has any questions about ECE or the courses that I take or what I did on co-op, I'd be happy to talk about that. Just drop any questions that you have in the Q&A session, and I'd be happy to answer. I'll pass it off to Paul.
Thanks, Komal.
Hi, I'm Paul Ward. I'm a prof in electrical and computer engineering and the associate director for software engineering. So I won't read the slides. I assume you can all read. The key aspect of software engineering is software engineering students are in a somewhat more privileged position than the rest of engineering students, because software engineering students do not get a Bachelor of Applied Science. They get a Bachelor of Software Engineering because it is a joint program between the faculties of math, and specifically the School of Computer Science within the Faculty of Math, and the Faculty of Engineering, and specifically Electrical and Computer Engineering. The primary thing, if we can flip to the next slide, the primary thing that a lot of students want to know is, where does computer science, software engineering, and computer engineering fit in? And I'm doing this talk. Victoria wanted me to absolutely stress this. Victoria is the director of software engineering. She is in the School of Computer Science. You do not want to do or apply for software engineering in the hopes that you can get into computer science. You should not be applying to computer science if you want to get into software engineering. They are very similar in some ways and very different in other ways. Software engineering combines computer science and engineering and creates, solves, develops software to solve engineering problems. Computer science is a very flexible degree. Students do credit-based system. They do not do a cohort-based system. If you want a flexible degree in software, computer science is a wonderful degree to do. I know I'm going to get in trouble with Kelsey for saying this, but seriously, if you want to do a computer science degree, do a computer science degree. It's an excellent degree to do. One of my degrees is in computer science. You do software engineering because you want an engineering degree, not simply a computer science degree. And the software engineering degree is all about the minimum standard. You will be, at the end of the process, eligible to be a professional engineer. The computer science graduates are not. You have a much more rigid course load, the same as any other engineering program. You wind up being, we've had faculty members from computer science go on sabbaticals at places like Facebook, I guess it's called Meta now, and they see the software engineering graduates at Facebook, at Google, at Amazon. Running short of time, can we flip to the third slide quickly? Two things about this slide. First of all, there's commonalities and there's differences. A computer engineer, the CE, a software engineer, or a computer science student can wind up doing any of these in this little Venn diagram. But key points, all three of them have big chunks of software, big chunks of AI, and they all have co-op programs. The software engineering, the key points is we're all about the architecture, requirements, design, and ensuring the quality of software, okay? The computer engineers will be focusing as much on hardware as software. The computer science students will be much more individual choice aspects. I do encourage you, if you look in the slides, you'll see there's a link there that's a much more detailed discussion of the differences between these programs. Please ask questions in the Q&A. I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thanks, Paul. And we're going to go to management engineering.
Hi everyone. My name is Ada Hurst. I'm the Associate Chair Undergraduate Studies in the Department of Management Science and Engineering. And this is the home department for the Management Engineering program. And before I tell you about the program, I want you to, for a moment, consider the world in which you live. You know, you think of a world full of more than ever complex, very complex global challenges, climate change, public health crisis, economic crisis, globalization, and all of this is happening in a context where there is an abundance of data and very, very promising emerging technologies like AI and machine learning. And these challenges require engineers to use a multidisciplinary and human-driven, human-centered approach to develop technologies to address these challenges in a responsible way. And really, in a nutshell, people ask, what is management engineering? How do you say it in a few words? In a nutshell, I think management engineering is what we're training is a new generation of data-driven decision-making. So you'll become a data-driven decision maker. In the program, you'll learn about how to improve processes, products, systems, like I said, in an increasingly digital and data-focused world. And we do that by combining knowledge, courses, skills, tools from 3 different areas. So it's a very unique and multidisciplinary program. You will learn about data analytics and operations, software and information systems, and you'll learn about people and organizations and economics. And this will set you up for excellent co-op placements and full-time careers, primarily in roles like business analytics and data analytics, other data-oriented roles, data science, data engineering, machine learning engineering, product management, that's also really a big one for our students, consulting, and of course, software development, because we have a strong core of software courses. And I think what's really cool and about the program, about this training, is that these skills and these roles that I just described are actually omnipresent in almost any industry. And we find our students both on co-op and after graduation in any industry, from software and finance to healthcare, supply chain, manufacturing. And so thank you. And I look forward to answering your questions.
Thanks, Ada. We're going to go to the Department of Mechanical and Mechatronics. We're going to hear from Robert.
Hi there. So I'm Robert Nishida, Assistant Professor in Mechanical and Mechatronics Engineering. So I'll start with mechanical engineering. Switch the slide. So mechanical engineers apply physics or physical sciences, essentially for designing anything that moves. So we have our friend Isaac Newton that had the apple falling on his head. So examples like that show the mechanics of motion, and topics like that form the basis of solid mechanics, fluid mechanics, heat transfer, energy conversion, for example. So it's a broad program in the sense that we consider very small scales branching into nanoengineering and heat and mass transfer and chemical systems, all the way to large scale for manufacturing design in, say, the motor vehicle industry, including battery electric vehicles, aerospace, nuclear, sustainable energy. It also covers topics in materials engineering, automation and controls, process engineering. And so there's specializations you can steer towards later in your program in building systems, so heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, sustainable energy, materials, and advanced manufacturing, and then mechatronic systems. And so speaking of mechatronics, so mechatronics engineering is a distinct program from mechanical engineering, and a big question is, what's the difference between mechanical and mechatronics engineering? So firstly, I'll say they're not mutually exclusive. Mechatronics emerged from mechanical in the early 2000s as the first program of its type in Canada, basically recognizing a need for a skill set integrating mechanical, electrical, and software. So the Tron part of it comes from the word electron. So it covers things like sensors, autonomous driving, robotics, industrial assembly lines. Students commonly work in branch into computer systems and software these days, and automation and robotics. So mechatronics students, another distinction is they definitely do more programming. So instead of doing 2 courses in thermodynamics, for example, there's 1 course in thermodynamics, and instead there's sensors or digital logic, that type of thing. So it covers a wider scope in that sense, which is useful in areas where you need to integrate systems from multiple areas, whereas mechanical is more about applying the physical sciences. So hope that helps in your decision, and then I think we can pass it on to Department of Systems Design Engineering.
Thanks, Robert.
Yep.
Going to hear from Victoria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Victoria Cotton. My preferred pronouns are she and her, and I am one of the academic advisors in the Department of Systems Design Engineering. So there are two programs in the department. The first one is biomedical engineering. And biomedical engineering is an interdisciplinary field where life sciences meets engineering. So your life sciences are really your chemistry, your physics, your biology, and even psychology. The courses teach engineering concepts that can be applied to biology, physiology, and especially healthcare. There was a huge emphasis on design, especially since we are from the Department of Systems Design, that prepares graduates to develop innovative tools, devices, models that can be applied to biomedical systems and be used by medical professionals. So looking at, doctors, nurses, occupational therapists, all sorts of medical professionals. The examples are there's assistive wearable technology, medical imaging systems, and medical devices like pacemakers. There are also specializations that can help to kind of give you an idea of really those focused areas within the program. So you're looking at the neural engineering specialization. There is a sports engineering specialization, the medical AI specialization, medical devices specialization, and then lastly, the biomaterials and tissues specialization, just to give you a bit more of an idea. And lastly, I just wanted to note that students that are interested in pursuing med school should really consider biomedical sciences. We say that because it is common for students that, might want to go to med school after their undergrad degree. It's common for them to consider biomedical engineering, but we urge you to consider biomedical sciences instead, because we really want students that want to be here and learn and be an engineer at the end of it. And then the next program is Systems Design Engineering. This is the second program in the department. Systems Design Engineers use a big picture approach to solve interdisciplinary problems, and they focus on engineering design. And every term that you are here, so out of your 8, for all of your 8 terms, you have a design course where you complete hands-on projects that leverage creative thinking and design. And again, there are also specializations within this department that can help you to kind of figure out what would interest you. There's human factors and interfaces, there's intelligent and automated systems, physical and mechatronic systems, and societal and environmental systems. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll be happy to answer your questions in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. I know that was a lot of information. So if you have any questions about any of those programs we just all went through, again, feel free to pop them in the Q&A. I see a lot of you are in there now asking great questions. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about choosing between our 15 programs. So at this point in time, before you apply, it's really important to think that all of our 15 programs are direct entry programs. So this means there's no general first year and you're diving right into your specific program right away in your first year. This offers less flexibility than a general first year engineering program, but it's also super exciting to get right into that program that you're interested in right away in your first year. So direct entry engineering programs, again, offer less flexibility than general first year programs. We'll also note that transferring from one engineering program to another may not be possible. So transferring in engineering may not be possible and isn't recommended because they are direct entry programs. You're diving right into that, your program and everything in your first year. So you might have to repeat some courses or kind of start again in your first year. So transferring between programs, really not recommended, and again, not always possible. So please do not apply to an engineering program and that you'll transfer into another program after you get into the university, because that's not usually how it works. So again, transfer approval depends on space availability, good academic standing, and evidence that the student is a good fit for the program. So a lot of different factors again. So transfer applicants may be required to repeat first year, delaying graduation by a year. So all of this being said, it is really important to do your research about which program you want to apply to. So how do you do this research to figure out which program is best for you? So we suggest that you read our online calendar descriptions of our 3rd and 4th year courses. You really get to specialize and take more courses that you're interested in those upper years. So it's a really great idea to read those course descriptions so you kind of have a better idea of the courses that you'll be taking and see if that's of interest to you or not. It's also helpful to discover the types of jobs that are worked by our students and our alumni. We do post a lot on our website about jobs that students in specific programs are open to, but it is important to remember that there is a lot of overlap, as we kind of discussed in our engineering programs. So you aren't really pigeonholed in your career. If you go into a specific engineering program, that doesn't mean that your career has to be specifically in that exact engineering program. It is also really helpful to ask our current students and our alumni about our programs, what they're up to, how they're feeling about it. We do have a lot of students on the call right now, so feel free again to ask away in that Q&A, or at the end of the meeting here, we'll have a live Q&A. There's also a couple other ways that you're able to connect with our students that I'll discuss kind of in the next couple slides, such as visiting campus is also a great way to come and see Waterloo and engineering and kind of see how we work. You can always sign up for a tour on our website, which is one of the ways to come and see campus. So just a few helpful resources here. On the left, we have our Ask an Engineering Warrior. This is where you're able to reach out and connect with a current student and really get to hear their side of everything. So they went through the whole process. They're in the program that you might be interested in. So it's a really great way to connect and kind of learn more and hear about the student experience. So I have the QR code there and the website, or you can just Google Ask a Warrior UWaterloo Engineering, and it will prompt you to our platform. On the right-hand side here, we also have our program compatibility quiz. This is a great starting point. It'll ask you about your interests and your career goals, and then it'll kind of list our engineering programs in order of what we think might be a good fit for you. Again, to note, this is a starting point, so don't just do the quiz and assume that the top program is the best one for you. There's a lot of current students who are in the program right now and did the quiz, and their top choice is not the program that they're in. So don't just solely do the quiz, but it is a good starting point to kind of get to know the programs and what you're interested in, what programs might be a good fit for you. So I encourage you to follow us on our social media. We have a bunch of our social media links here, especially our YouTube channel. We have endless amounts of videos and previous webinars. This webinar will also be posted on our website and on our YouTube channel, along with all the other webinars we're having in our series next couple months. We're usually always posting about our alumni on our social media accounts also, about what they're doing after graduation. It's a really great way to kind of see what our graduates are up to and see what kind of careers they have after completing their program. So tips for selecting an engineering program. So don't apply to a program simply because you think you'll be admitted. The competitiveness of an applicant pool is really difficult to predict. And regarding competitiveness for programs, Bill, our Director of Admissions, is on the call and he will chat a little bit about admissions shortly. And although competitiveness is difficult to predict, it also varies from year to year. So a really good application is really what makes the biggest difference when you're applying. So again, a great application can make a significant difference. And if you're not passionate about the program you've chosen, your application really won't be strong. So we do encourage you to choose something that you're passionate about, not just a program that you think will be easy to get into. We really want you to enjoy what you're doing and complete the time that you're at university. So again, make sure you do that research and make sure you're picking the right program that's best fit for you and that you will succeed in. So when you are applying on the Ontario University Application Centre website, it's important to note that you can only apply to one engineering program at Waterloo. So you need to, again, do that research. But I will say, when you do submit your admission information form, which you will be emailed about and prompted to complete after you apply on OUAC, you will have the chance to select an alternate engineering program. So again, you can only apply to one program, but you can select an alternate program on your AIF. We do recommend that when you select an alternate engineering program, that you consider the expected competitiveness of the application pool for that alternate choice. And also to note that software and biomedical engineering are our most competitive programs. And with that, those cannot be selected as an alternate choice on your AIF. So again, you can only apply to one engineering program, but you can submit an alternate engineering program on your AIF excluding software and biomedical. A good alternate choice is one that is in a less competitive applicant pool, but one you're still interested in. And also, if you only want to be considered for that one program that you apply to, you do not have to put an alternate engineering program on the field on your AIF. So again, moral of the story here, do your research, only apply to one program, and you can consider an alternate program on your AIF. And also remember that you can always study courses from another program through options. So at Waterloo, we don't really do double minors or double majors, sorry, or minors. We do something called options in engineering, similar to a minor. You take about 5 to 8 courses, and that designation of the option will come out on your degree at the end of your time here. So if you're in, say, mechatronics, you could add an option in a different kind of field, but within engineering, so you can kind of get a feel for kind of a different topics and everything, and really kind of see what you're interested in, which is a great option for everyone. So again, no really minor options in engineering, but we have our options, which are pretty similar to a minor, just again in that engineering field. So always just remember to be true to yourself. When selecting your program, it's really important to be true to yourself. So again, selecting an engineering program based on your interests. Students often regret choosing an engineering program for other reasons. And I know your family and friends are important and their opinions really matter to you, but again, you're the one that's going to have to go through the program. So you need to kind of live with your choice and be happy with it and want to succeed in that program. So you need to be self-motivated to successfully complete an engineering program. So again, just do your research, like think about what you're interested in and really just focus on that. Because if you don't enjoy your studies, you'll find it difficult to manage your time and the workload, which is not what we want. We want you to enjoy your program and we want you to complete your program and be successful while you're here. All right, so now to chat about co-op, which is something we are very well known for that I'm sure most of you already know. So co-op at Waterloo, we do have the largest co-op program in North America. Our students typically make between about $9,600 and $22,500 per 4-month work term in Canada. 96% of our co-op grads employed 6 months after graduation find jobs related to skills they acquired at Waterloo, compared to 83% of all university graduates in Ontario. And 81% of Waterloo co-op grads earn $60,000 or more 2 years after graduation, compared to 44% of Ontario graduates. So again, just showing how we love our co-op program and our students really succeed, and it's really rewarding for them and helps them after they graduate. So co-op, engineering co-op. So co-op in engineering is 100%. You are required to complete 5 of 6 co-op work terms. Over 1,500 engineering students participate in international co-op placements during a typical year. So you don't need to stay local when you do your co-op. You are able to go international and do that co-op placement elsewhere. And at the end of your program, students will gain up to 2 years of full-time work experience in their field of study. Co-op jobs depend on your field of interest, but may include a research assistant, software developer, automated test developer, process engineering assistant. Just a couple options. All right, so study and work sequences. So at Waterloo, students alternate between work and study terms, and they are applying for jobs while they are in those study terms. So we have 2 streams, Stream 4 and Stream 8. So certain programs fall under certain streams. There are some programs that you do have an option to choose between Stream 4 or Stream 8. It's not guaranteed that you will get your choice, but some programs do have that choice, so they will do their best to kind of split that up and accommodate. So Stream 4 basically means you're here for 1 term, so you're here in the fall for 4 months, and then you go right into your co-op term in the winter, and then you basically flip-flop back and forth between study and work. Whereas Stream 8 would be you're here for 8 months, so 2 terms of study, and then you're going into your co-op in that 3rd term in the spring, and again, kind of flip-flopping between study and work after the 1st year. So basically, there are no summer breaks, and your undergraduate degree is actually about 5 years with co-op. But in those 5 years, you are graduating with 2 years of paid work experience thanks to co-op. I will also note that some programs do have a bit of a variation of Stream 4 or Stream 8, but majority of our engineering programs do follow the set Stream 4 or Stream 8 sequence. All right, so we're going to have Bill, our Director of Admissions, do a little chat about admissions. I know there's a lot of questions coming in the chat.
Thank you. So my name is Bill Bishop. I'm the Director of Admissions, and my pronouns are he, him. Here we see the admission averages that are expected for each of our engineering programs. We also have an estimate of how many students we expect to admit to these programs. The estimates, of course, are subject to change. It's important to remember as well that we will extend more offers than the number of spaces that we have available, because in a typical year, we have about 14,000 applicants apply to the university for engineering programs. About 4,000 of those applicants will receive an offer of admission. About 2,000 applicants will actually accept the offer of admission, and about 1,800 students in total will register for first year classes. So it's important to keep in mind that these are just estimates, but you can see that some programs are definitely larger than others. We can move to the next slide. One thing to note is that there's no early consideration deadline this year. For those that may have looked at the website last year, you would have noticed that there was an early consideration deadline. To streamline the process this year, also because of the fact that we're implementing new software systems behind the scenes, it makes sense to move to a single deadline this year. So the deadline to apply on UAC, the Ontario University Application Center, is January 15th. 2025 at midnight, basically. Of course, I always encourage students to apply well before that deadline because sometimes the website will be quite busy and you never know whether the network connection will be reliable or not. Now, you will have some additional time to complete your admission information form. Sometimes students are worried when they're filling in their admission information form that they're not able to provide grades for all of the classes that they're taking. That's okay. The admission information form is a snapshot of what you know at that point in time. So by January 31st, we need to have received your submission for the admission information form to be considered. And any students that do not, in fact, submit that AIF form will not be considered for admission. The online video interview is also a part of our process. For those that may not be familiar with the system, we use Kira Talent, which is a system that's used by a number of universities in Ontario. And this system allows you to record a video response to a question that's posed. The deadline for that is also January 31st. And one thing that is new this year, and is important to note if you're applying to software engineering, it is now a requirement for software engineering. And that's because we will be doing the evaluation of programming experience through the Kira Talent platform using a written answer question. The online video interview can only improve your chance of admission, so it's strongly recommended for all engineering applicants regardless of program, but clearly if you're applying to software engineering, it's absolutely required. We can move to the next slide. So one thing to keep in mind is that it's impossible to go over all of the subtleties of admissions tonight. So we will have a webinar coming up on Thursday, September 26th on tips for applying to Waterloo Engineering. And if you can't attend that one, which is in the morning, there will also be one for tips for applying to Waterloo Engineering on Thursday, October 17th. That's in the evening. So one of those two will hopefully fit into your schedule. There's also more information on the university website, and this will be updated even further as the term goes by. just because we are doing some updates right now to the system. I do expect the information to be finalized once the application's open, which I do expect that to happen actually towards the end of September. Now, on Saturday, October 5th and Sunday, October 6th, there's also the Ontario Universities Fair. This is a great opportunity for students who may have the ability to go to the Metro Toronto Convention Centre to ask questions of faculty members, students, and staff about the programs that they're potentially interested in. So it's a really good way to find out more about programs and determine whether our programs are a good fit for you. It is important to understand that a great program may not be great for everyone. You have to choose a program that's the right fit for you. And just note that on November 9th, we'll also have the Fall Open House. This is probably the most popular recruiting event that we offer. It's held on both the Waterloo campus and the Cambridge campus simultaneously. The Cambridge campus is for the School of Architecture. The Waterloo campus is for all of the engineering programs. And this event allows you to come to our facilities, speak with our students, talk to our faculty members, interact with our staff, and determine if our school is a good fit for you. And I strongly encourage all students that are seriously considering applying to the University of Waterloo to attempt to attend that Fall Open House if you can. Last year, we even had a student fly in from British Columbia just to go to the open house. And if you want to register for any of these events, it's not required for UAC, but the Ontario Universities Fair, I should say. But if you want to register for any of the webinars or the Fall Open House, there's a link that will allow you to do that.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, so that concludes the presentation part for tonight. Here are just a few helpful links and emails for you. We have our platform to chat with our current students, and we have our email for the admission questions. So if you have any specific admission questions that we don't answer, please feel free to email enginfo@uwaterloo.ca for the 14 engineering programs. And if you do have any admission questions for architecture specifically, please email archinfo@uwaterloo.ca. And also feel free to visit our website to book a tour or see our upcoming events. That's a great way to get involved, to kind of see campus and see everything going on. As Bill mentioned, we do have our open house coming up on November 9th. I believe registration is open, so feel free to visit our website and sign up for that. It's a great way to see campus and see kind of students, staff, faculty, get to know kind of how Waterloo works, and talk to students and staff to get kind of the vibe and feel how Waterloo engineering kind of is. It's a great way to kind of see campus. So I see the Q&A is continuously going. I see our experts are answering your questions extremely quickly. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. If our presenters want to turn their cameras on, we could do a little live Q&A for any kind of questions that haven't been answered yet, or if any of our experts kind of want to add anything or say anything, please feel free. Let me just stop sharing my screen here. I see Paul has his hand up.
So there's one thing that Kelsey said that is true for everything except software engineering. We're always ever so slightly different because of our joint program. It is true that very few engineering students will do minors. They will do options. However, there are minors in mathematics. There's a combinatorics and optimization minor, a statistics minor, pure math minor, even joint honors degrees that not the majority of our students, but a fairly sizable minority of software engineering students will take a minor in one of the mathematics departments, especially the C&O minor, because it's in fact surprisingly little extra work to do that with appropriate course selection. So just a point to be aware of.
Thanks, Paul. All right. Oh my gosh, everyone is just so quick to answer the questions here. I was going to say, Bill, I see a couple questions about adjustment factor and high school grades or summer school courses. Did you want to kind of touch on those?
Sure. So there are some subtleties, of course. I mean, it's hard to give a definitive answer to certain questions. For example, the question of taking an online course through your school board, that is something that we expect many students will do in some cases because online courses are part of the high school curriculum these days. So we don't penalize students for taking an online course through their school board. But it may be different if they take it in the summer and they're using it as a way to change their kind of work-life balance, if you will, in the fall and winter terms. So, there are some subtleties. It's an individual decision depending upon what we see on the transcript, really. So that's something to keep in mind. Repeated courses are penalized if we see obviously a significant difference. You could imagine there could be a significant penalty applied. Sometimes a student repeats a course and their mark doesn't change. In those cases, maybe the repeat penalty will be waived, obviously, right? Because there's no reason to do so. So again, there's some subtleties to that. So if you have a specific situation that you're interested in learning how that will be handled, you can always reach out to enginfo@urlu.ca, and we can provide more guidance on how that will be handled in that particular situation. I'm always reluctant to give a very definitive answer in a public space on some of the questions, just because there can be extenuating circumstances. Maybe somebody had to take a course in summer school because there was a reason. Maybe they got ill. That could be a different situation than, say, somebody changing the workload that they have to do in the winter term, for example. And then on the subject of adjustment factors, it was really answered very well by one of our student representatives, I believe, where they said, you shouldn't really worry about the adjustment factor. It's there to kind of provide equality between different programs. So if you're at a hard school, it'll probably have a lower adjustment factor than if you're at an easier school. All it really does is balance out the system. And it's actually a very small part of the decision itself. I know students sometimes think it's a huge difference, but it actually doesn't work out that way when you look at the schools that are applied adjustments.
Now there's going to briefly talk about the AIF and the interview. Just a couple questions of just generally kind of what's going on with those two.
So I don't know exactly what the AIF questions were that were asked, but in general, the AIF looks kind of at holistic characteristics of a student, trying to determine if they're the right fit for our program and if they have kind of the transferable skills that really will make them succeed in our program. The AIF is a supplementary application that you fill in after you've filled in the application on the official Ontario University's Application Center site. So you'll be invited to complete the AIF. It is a requirement to be considered for admission. Students who do not submit the admission information form will not be considered. For Cura Talent, it's a requirement for software engineering. It's also a requirement for the scholarships that we have, the named entrance scholarships, but it's not a requirement for all programs. So you can get admitted to a program in engineering without completing the online video interview, but you may not receive, for example, a named scholarship, a significant scholarship. You'd still get the standard entrance scholarship.
Awesome. I think that kind of covers all that. There's a couple questions about co-op jobs for each program. If each kind of program wants to maybe mention a couple possible co-op options or where kind of jobs that people have in those programs, perhaps.
I could maybe speak to computer engineering. So I see a variety of kind of positions that people hold in computer engineering. There's people that go down the software engineering route. They do like database stuff and back end, front end, full stack, that kind of thing. People still do that in ECE. There's people in mechanical that also do that kind of thing. It just depends on what kind of skills you build outside of class and what kind of jobs you're interested in. I've personally done a bunch of robotics jobs. I kind of enjoy that domain. You can choose a different domain and you can also do different positions within that domain. What I mean by that is if you go down the robotics route, you don't have to be doing only robotics things. You could be doing back-end stuff at a robotics company. So people are kind of all over the grid, but mainly in computer engineering, I see a lot of people doing FPGA stuff, chip design, just a bunch of that kind of thing. Again, it's just like very dependent on the kind of skills that you build through your side projects and your extracurriculars, design teams, that kind of thing.
Thanks, Komal. Anyone else have any possible job perspectives from the program?
I can give a few. It's hard to say because there are so many jobs out there and students can be all over the place. I know some students in geological, for instance, they spend the summer up in Baffin Island or something working in a mine. Others are working locally for a municipality, looking at water treatment or the flooding problems in Toronto, something like that. Others are working on construction sites for developers or consulting companies more often, or they could be working in government, Environment Canada, or other MTO, Ministry of Transportation Ontario, those types of things. So there's many jobs out there in the field, analysts or working on simple design projects. Yeah.
Great, thanks. Any of the student ambassadors on here want to mention any co-op positions or anything that they had or kind of their co-op experience? I know there's a couple questions about the process of co-op. You are applying to it like a job. But if any of our ambassadors kind of want to chime in on their student experience of their co-op kind of process.
I can speak to it. I think it's pretty similar to what everybody else has said. For reference, I am a fourth-year biomedical engineering student, and I've completed all 6 of my co-ops now. So it's when you first come into the university, there will be a course that you take that will teach you all the nitty-gritty about co-op and applying for co-op, how you can get your resume ready, how you can be interview ready. Waterloo is very co-op centric in a sense. All the students are applying for co-ops, so there's not really a very competitive feeling. It's quite welcoming in a sense, where everybody's just trying to help each other get their resume, get their interview, be the best they can possibly be. And while I do apply for a lot of the same jobs as my cohort members do, we don't really have this toxic sense of competition. Again, we are there to help each other, and there's some unspoken rules, like you don't ask somebody for interview questions, obviously. But yeah, we all help out each other. I personally also help out a lot of younger years, first years with their resumes and interviews. It's a very common, normal feeling to feel a little lost. So everyone's there to really just help you out and figure it out when you get there.
Thanks. Ada, did you have your hand up earlier or no?
Well, sure. It's just that I'm not a student and I'm not done the
That's
co-op
okay.
in management engineering. But you know, I think the careers that I can speak to management engineering. I think it's a really good way to explain the program and kind of the potential with it. We've been doing a lot of data tracking of our alumni. We've had students out in the world now. I mean, engineering is somewhat new. I mean, relatively speaking. But we graduated our first cohort in 2012, so we've had now, 12 years of alumni out there, so we know what they're up to. And the careers that they do upon graduation is actually very similar to the kind of jobs they're doing in the senior co-op terms. So like I mentioned in my presentation, product management, software development, business analytics, data science, that kind of thing. And then I think maybe for students who are just entering the program, I guess the advice that I have, or I will usually have for them once they're in the program, is that, you know, the job landscape in the first term is a bit different from the third or fourth or fifth co-op term. And so, for example, maybe you'll have fewer, maybe no students doing a product management role as their first co-op term, but you'll find students doing things like even web development or, you know, product assistant, like assistant in a product management type role, but you're assisting in that role. Or, but we do have students even their first term doing things like data analysis and sort of more basic data analytics.
Thanks. Everyone's so quick on the answers here. A couple questions about programming experience and the math competition for applying. I don't know if Bill or anyone else wants to chime in on that. Paul?
I can chime in on that. Software engineering is unique at Waterloo. It is the only program, as far as I know, that requires programming experience. Not even computer science requires programming experience. Easiest way to demonstrate that is if you have a high school course with good grades that does programming. So ICS 11U, ICS 12U, those will be great. If you don't have one of those, if you did something like the Canadian Computing Competition and you got a good score in it, that's a pretty good way of saying, look, I didn't take a course, but I must know how to program. Okay. It certainly doesn't hurt to do the Euclid contest. A lot of students who apply to software engineering will also apply to computer science. Look, you can't easily switch between those. Okay. There is no easy transfer path. There has been a transfer path in the past. It's gone. Okay. Do not think CS is a backdoor to software or software is a backdoor to CS. They are not. They are competitive transfer only. So apply for the one that makes sense for you. I mean, you can apply to both, but look, don't do a computer science degree hoping to get into software engineering and be upset because you wanted to be an engineer. Don't go into software engineering because you really can't stand engineering, but you just want to get into computer science. This is not a good route. It will not work out well. As Bill said, we're an excellent school, but we're not going to be excellent for everybody. Some people, we're not a good fit. Okay. Apply for and go into the program that makes sense for you. And don't go in with the idea of you're going to transfer to a different program. Okay. If you think you're going to transfer to a different program, if you think you're not sure which engineering you want, look, Queen's University has a general first year. Here, I'm advertising the competition. They're not really the competition. If you want a general first year engineering, Queen's is a great place to go. We don't do a general first year engineering, and we never will. We never can, because we have a co-op program. And our co-op program means we can't do that. It's one of the constraints. One of the things you learn as a good engineer is solving a problem is solved with constraints. Do contests matter? Look, Bill can answer that in detail, but for software, for demonstrating programming, yes, it matters. Okay. Math ability matters too. There's a lot of people, they love to program, they're not so great at math. This will hurt you in software engineering. Okay. Probably hurt you in all engineering, but it will hurt you in software. Maybe Bill can comment more on contests.
Yeah, so I mean, participation in contests is another way of showing programming experience if it's related to programming or related to math, for example. But we don't specifically have a weight for programming contests. So that's important to keep in mind. That may not be the case for computer science. I can't speak for computer science, but for software engineering, we do not assign any specific weight to programming contests as part of the admission process. But just like any other extracurricular, it's valuable. And certainly it's quite useful in showing that you have programming experience and knowledge.
Thanks. What else do we have here? Do you have any ambassadors that want to talk about kind of extracurriculars or sports? See a couple questions kind of about getting involved as a student. Anyone wants to kind of touch on that?
I can speak a little bit. Well, what we're doing now is a great example. You can be an engineering ambassador. There's applications that go out at the beginning of every term, and there's like many ways you can get involved. There's always cool opportunities that the team sends out. So that's one thing you can do. There's a bunch of design teams. I'm sure there's a bunch of other students on this call that can speak to that. But I've personally focused on doing URAs, which are undergrad research assistantships under professors. So I've done 2 so far. And these are research assistantships that you can do after your second year, I believe. And the way I kind of got into this, I just messaged a professor that I thought had really cool work that they were working on, and I was able to work with a grad student and be able to shadow them and like do whatever they asked me to do. So that was a really cool experience. I definitely recommend doing that if you're considering grad school, if you just want to see what it's like to work under a prof as well.
Thanks, Kamal. Any other of my engineering ambassadors want to chime in?
Sorry, I can say something again. This time I
Sure,
understand the question. There's things like design teams that Como didn't mention, but we have a lot of design teams here at Waterloo. They are all student-run teams, but they all function like a little company. For example, any F1 fans, vroom vroom car. Fun thing, yeah, F1. We have a F1 team here on campus. They build their own F1 car and they race it. And they've won a couple of international competitions, I think, at least from my memory. And it's all student led. You learn a lot of good hands-on skills, and you get to learn things that you would otherwise not be able to learn maybe in sitting in a calculus class. So yeah, it's really student driven, a lot of fun.
Thanks. I don't know if any other student ambassadors want to chime in. There are lots of ways to get involved. Engineering has EngSoc, our large engineering student society that runs a lot of programs and semi-formals and a whole bunch of stuff. So there's always something going on and a way to get involved, I will say, contrary to the belief. What other questions do we have in here? There were some questions about grade 11 marks. Bill, if you wanted to comment on that. People are just wondering if they look at grade 11 marks. And again, people are curious about AIF questions of what they should talk about in their AIF.
Yeah, so with respect to grade 11 marks, they do come into play when we're evaluating students early in the process, because there will be students who have not yet completed certain grade 12 required courses. So in those cases, we will estimate the grade 12 grades using the grade 11 grades. Obviously, once we get to our final round of admission, we will have at that point a basis for estimating all grade 12 grades through either midterm or final grades. So at that point, the grade 11 grades become irrelevant. But in the early portion of the admission cycle, when we're evaluating and assessing students, grade 11 grades can come into play and certainly can be a factor.
Great. What other questions do we have here? Or if any experts want to add anything or say anything about their programs or anything that I've missed. I'll look through for some more questions here. If any of the participants want to ask a question, you are not able to turn your mic or your camera on, so you'll have to type that in the chat, unfortunately. And again, to note, there's a lot of questions about that early deadline to apply. We do not, again, have the early deadline like we had in previous years. January 15th is the only deadline to apply for our engineering programs, and then January 31st, you will be the deadline to submit all supporting documents. So just keep in mind there is not that early consideration deadline. See a couple questions about kind of when they'll hear back. Bill, if you want to chime in again on that. Lots of
So-
AIF and hearing back questions.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we need to have time to score the AIFs and whatnot. So most students won't find out admission results until at the earliest, probably early May. But you know, it may even be later than that. It really depends upon how the admissions cycle goes this term. And then most of the remaining applicants will receive their final decisions in kind of mid-May. That's typically when we say that the admission decisions are finalized. So by May 15th typically is the date we usually choose to say, okay, by that date you'll know whether you've been admitted or not. But for most students, it's fairly late. That's just because it takes time to assess the admission information forms. It takes time to assess the Cura Talent interviews and whatnot. Now, there will be some students who will receive earlier offers just because of the fact that, you know, their application gets processed perhaps earlier, and we can tell that they're going to eventually receive an admission offer for a program. This most often happens for programs where we know we have enough spaces, given the number of applicants that we have, to provide an offer to a student early. Last year, our first offers went out actually just before Christmas. We had a couple of offers that went out on December 23rd. So, you know, it doesn't happen too often, but anytime from December onwards, there could be an offer that goes out, but most will go out in March and mid-May.
Oh, I see a couple IB questions in there also. So,
As far as IB questions go, is that what you said?
yeah, I see a couple questions about IB classes, if they have any effect on adjustment factor or.
So there's no specific adjustment factor for IB programs in Ontario, but there are adjustment factors for schools in Ontario, and some schools are IB schools and some schools are not. So there may be some correlation in that sense. What we found is that some IB schools are strong and some are weak, as you might expect. There's variation in any system that exists. So we don't have a specific adjustment factor just for IB programs. We have an adjustment factor for individual schools.
I was going to say, Kelsey, a couple hands came up. They've gone, but I don't know if people want to actually ask a question out loud.
Yeah, so their mics and their videos are not able to turn on,
Oh, okay.
unfortunately. So
Okay.
they would have to type them in that Q&A, unfortunately. Hopefully they can type them in. Look, there's some more questions here. Tochi or Rain or Karen or Zillan, do you guys want to kind of talk about your experience of like applying and how your time has been at Waterloo in engineering, or any co-op placements that you guys have had?
I can speak a bit on that. It's been a while since I applied. To give a little bit of background, I'm in fourth year mechanical engineering, so it has been a long time since I applied. But during my application, to give a little insight of things I put on my AAF, I was a camp counselor and a piano teacher, which are both non-STEM related at all. So don't worry about any of your extracurriculars being about engineering related or STEM. They just want to see that you're a well-rounded individual as well as get good marks, just to see that you are actually employable, because co-op is a big part of engineering, and anything that shows your employability is good for your AAF. So don't stress about being in like a STEM related extracurricular. Just make sure you are being involved as well as getting good grades in high school. But to talk a little bit about my experience, I've been in a variety of co-ops for mechanical engineering. it is very, very broad in mechanical engineering. You can go almost anywhere with it. But for me personally, I work a lot in the energy industry and like consulting, but I have a lot of friends who do more software related jobs. In mechanical engineering specifically, there's a lot of automotive people, like Toyota. Tesla's a really big one. A lot of people go to the States for that. And there are a lot of opportunities to work abroad if you do get admitted in engineering. So there are a bunch of opportunities and there's a lot of fun co-op things. So it's definitely good to get involved, see what you like. And I think one of the big pros of having 6 co-ops is you really get to explore a lot of options. So that is a pro if you're looking to see what you actually want to do after you graduate.
Thanks. Karen, Aditi, or Toshi want to chime in on any more of their experience or co-op placements that they've had for their program? I know students are always curious what their co-op options are or what previous students have done. Or Dylan, you can chime in. I know you guys are here hiding.
Yeah, for sure. I can speak about my experience. So I am a 3rd-year architectural engineering student. So I also applied a while ago, but I also was not involved in heavy STEM projects. I was more involved in the school committees and school clubs and the school government. So that was what I had put on my AIF. And also, I see a lot of questions about whether employment is important to add on your AIF. I personally added my employment, and I think that helps a lot. But yeah, for my co-op experience, I have had 4 co-ops so far, and I'm just starting my 5th one. And for architectural engineering, I really like the co-ops because you get a huge variety of jobs. You can do architecture jobs, or you can do more on the civil engineering side, and you can work in consulting if you like. But I've personally had both architecture and engineering jobs, and it's nice to have that variety and kind of see what you prefer and choose what you want to do after graduation.
Thanks.
Yeah. Just to add on to that, I'm Aditi. I'm going into my 3 term of civil engineering, and I've done this. I'm in my 3rd co-op right now, so I've done 2 previously, and it's a bit similar to architecture, which is what. So as she mentioned, she likes the variety. I also really enjoy the variety that co-op gives me. My first 2 co-ops were actually planning co-ops, so I got to experience the urban planning side of things, municipal planning and like transit planning. My 3rd co-op, which is my current co-op right now, is in consulting engineering, and I also really find that interesting. So I think the co-op program is really useful for finding out what you're really interested in within your own little niche of engineering. Like, I'm hoping for like my next co-op to be in something related to stormwater management or structural engineering, so I get a better idea of, do I enjoy those fields or not.
Yeah, I don't know if it's too late to kind of chime in because it's been a long line, but I wouldn't mind saying something. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Okay,
you.
Sorry, yes,
just to
I
make
was
sure.
muted.
Okay,
You're
cool.
good.
Sorry. Yeah, my name's Tochi. I'm in my 2A mechatronics term, so mechatronics engineering, sorry, and I'm on my study term right now. I just did 1 co-op in the summer, so far, so I don't have as much to say as like building up on co-op experiences as I guess the rest of the students have. But I definitely say a lot of people were in the Q&A are like, oh, what if I don't have experience, or do I need experience to do mechanical? Do I need experience for software, this and that? Software is a bit specific, but just in general, like experience for jobs and stuff for that first co-op, it is a bit like more open, as like getting a job is kind of the first and foremost goal, to get like a standard term and everything. I did end up getting an engineering job. I worked at an oil and gas company as a process engineering intern. But even then, I kind of spent my co-op term working on like design team stuff and side projects, kind of developing my skills towards areas that I did want to work in. So currently now I'm kind of trying to find a URA, which is undergraduate research assistant, working under a prof and kind of in robotics and automation, which is kind of where I want to go to, and some software development as well, which I'm getting from design teams. So even if like, I guess your first co-op isn't as related as you'd like, there's still opportunities for you to work on other side things to kind of get towards what you want to work in.
Yeah, I think I can also add some to this discussion. So my name is Zillan. I'm a second-year biomedical engineering student. So about AIF, I will also say that don't stress too much about it. And I wasn't really heavily involved in STEM. For example, I mainly highlighted my volunteer experiences in my AIF, and I also started my own a student-led charity in high school, and that's mainly what I highlighted on. And yeah, in terms of co-op, I also agree that it's a great way to get a foot into the industry that you're interested in. And I'm personally very interested in like product management and project management area. So that's has been the co-op in the fields that I have been involved in. Yeah. Kelsey, I think you're muted.
Thank you. Thanks, Dylan. Josh, I see your hand up. Maybe not. Maybe it was an accident. Oh.
Was a mistake. Carry on.
Okay, no worries, no worries. All right, so we're almost to the end here, so I'm gonna just do a couple other questions. I saw a couple again, Bill, of benefits of AP and IB that is looked at differently, or if there's any benefit.
The AP program has some benefits in preparing students generally for university. So we certainly don't discourage students from taking AP, but we don't have a specific adjustment factor for the AP program, and we don't provide transfer credits for AP or IB, which is the most common question that we get asked with respect to those programs. That's also true, I believe, for the faculty of math. They don't allow for transfer credits for AP or IB as well. As far as the programs go, the AP program may be useful at other universities in terms of transfer credits. So you have to kind of gauge whether you're solely applying to Waterloo or whether you're applying to many schools within kind of North America where perhaps it has an advantage elsewhere. But also, it's important to remember that AP schools, most of the students that would be applying from those schools typically are in the AP program, so they may have an adjustment factor that reflects in some ways the AP program.
Awesome. All right, let me just look for maybe one last question here. I see there's a couple questions about if they're interested in robotics, about which program is right for them. Lash, there's also a question of pros and cons of system design engineering and how it would compare to mechatronics. I still have my experts on the call here. Is Victoria still on the call, or Robert?
Yeah, I can try to answer that one. I would say that systems design engineering there is definitely different from mechatronics engineering. I would say there's more of a focus within the program itself. There's a huge focus on design, which is kind of the centerpiece to our whole department. It's also a big part of the biomedical engineering program as well. I think a lot of people tend to see the systems design program as starting off really broad. You're getting a little bit from all of these different areas. And as you go on throughout your degree with like the many electives that are kind of at your disposal, you really get to start to specialize. I recommend taking a look at the various kind of specializations or research areas or focus areas that each department offers or each program offers, which you can find on the website. And I think that can help kind of show that difference for you.
Awesome. Thanks. Do any of my experts or anyone have any last comments or anything they would like to say before we kind of wrap up? Okay. All right, so we are at our time here. It is 9:30. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of our experts, everyone who joined the call, and all of our attendees. I hope you learned a lot about Waterloo Engineering. Hopefully we answered most, if not all, of your questions. This webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel and on our website, along with the rest of the webinars in our webinar series. Please remember, if you didn't get your question answered, you're always free to email us at endrecruitment@uwaterloo.ca for any generic questions. If you have admission-specific questions for architecture, you can email arcinfo@uwaterloo.ca. And for the 14 other engineering programs for admissions, enginfo@uwaterloo.ca would be the best email for that. So hopefully I'll see you at our next webinar or our upcoming events, or maybe even at Waterloo after you apply, hopefully. But that concludes kind of our presentation for tonight. So again, thank you everyone for coming and everyone answering the questions. I hope you all have a great night. Bye.